I love my Nikon Z6ii, but there's a few things that it could do better. I think that this is an excellent lens. Well, hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Emma and professionally I am a software developer, but in my free time I love landscape photography and making related videos here on YouTube. I've talked a lot on this channel about features that the Nikon Z6ii does have, but today I thought that I'd switch things up a bit and talk about some features that I wish that it had, some of which I think Nikon could add through firmware updates, and others of which would actually require updates to the hardware. First off, I wish that the buttons on the camera were more customizable. I've talked about this before on this channel, but the buttons on the Z6ii are somewhat, but not entirely customizable. Now, I really wish that Nikon had made the buttons a bit more customizable on this and allowed you to do any function with any button, or at least any function with the customizable buttons. There is a set of buttons that you can change the functions of to assign tasks from a subset of functions. But in my mind, it would just be better if you could change any button to perform any action so you could make it fit your workflow. I can't say without knowing the current hardware of the camera whether that's possible through a firmware update or not, but that would be really great to see on future cameras if not in this one. The second thing that I really want to see is some smarter bracketing modes. The Z6ii has standard automatic bracketing functionality to take some quantity of photos at different exposures or white balance increments. But in a modern world, I think that I would like to see some new options. When I'm bracketing, it's to get the highlights, the midtones, and the shadows exposed properly, right? And to set the auto bracketing, I have to play around with the exposure intervals until I get it right. What if instead I could have the bracketing take a couple of different photos at different metering modes, or bracket for the exposure, the highlights, and the shadows automatically without me having to figure it out? I don't know if there's any cameras out there now that are doing this type of thing, but in 2022, that seems like it would be something that would be really nice to see. The third change I'd like to see is just some improvements around the burst modes. The current mode options are single frame, continuous L, continuous H, and continuous H extended. Then over for the timer, you can do 2, 5, 10, or 20 seconds. Again, with this, it's fine, but in 2022, I wonder if it's a bit antiquated. Right off the bat, we're dealing with names that are pretty confusing. When I see L, H, and H+, I have no idea what that means. Under L, I can select 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frames per second, which makes sense, but then H and H plus are just that. According to the user manual, H will take up to about 5.5 frames per second and H plus up to 14 frames per second. Now, I realize there's some limitations outside of Nikon's control as the buffer in the camera starts to get full and the card write speed starts to come into play, as well as the shutter speed that you're using. And that, I think, is the reason for the somewhat nebulous up to about in the user manual. But I still think that this could be much simpler if the camera just had a dial selection of 1 to 14 frames per second and let you select the target rate that you wanted. And the same thing for timer modes. I think it would be much simpler if I could select any amount of seconds from 0 to 30 or minutes even, whatever, would be really nice to see rather than those just a few options. I find the current system, especially for the burst modes, to be very confusing, and I'm sure I can't be the only one who's confused by it. The fourth thing that I wish that this camera had is definitely a hardware change, which is why I put it off until last. But sometimes I do wish that the screen flipped around facing me. Now, obviously, I knew when I bought the camera what I was getting, and it's not a huge deal. There are ways to, kind of work around that using the SnapBridge app. This isn't really a vlogging camera because it's pretty heavy, but even on a tripod, it is excellent for filming yourself, except that you can't see the screen to check if you are in the frame. It would also be really nice to have a red recording light on the front to confirm that it's recording while you're taking a video of yourself. Sometimes I set up the Z6ii to get some video myself, as I am right now, and then I walk back and forth to behind the camera to check that everything looks good and that the recording started. Now, I noticed that Nikon's new vlogging camera, which they recently just announced, the Z30, is going to have a screen that can flip around to the front and a red recording light on the front. And so I'm very excited about that. I'm probably not going to buy one of those right away. I just have some other personal expenses and things. But I will say that I'm quite interested in that, and there's a good chance that I will get one down the line to help me out with my video recording. So that is all of the features that come to mind for me, but what about you? What are some features that you wish your camera had? Let me know down in the comments, and if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button on the way out and to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss more things that I'm really excited to share with you in the future. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.